it's an essential feature of God that term has no definable meaning. That's why it's persisted so well, because it means to different people whatever they want it to mean. And so it's a concept. That's the brilliance of the idea of God. Is it doesn't mean anything. What it really means is you want to stop thinking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cynical direction, I'm willing to go there, but I want to work our way toward there.
Okay. You take the long road. I'll just I'll go through the short. Okay.
Right, that's a good marketing ploy, right?
Yeah.
So to speak. Because if it's infinitely flexible, then it can mean what you need it to mean
and in
any particular context.
Let me just add one other thing, and you can pick up both, but just the other aspect of that, and that the empirical also requires falsifiability. And I think that's the other crucial feature of God, is that God is not falsifiable. So anyway, you can pick up on both if you want.
Okay, yeah, and I would say, the question here would be, do we know what we're trying to falsify in the first place? So just, this is a number of aspects, but suppose we say, what is God? And we try to answer that question seriously. The most standard thing first to go to is to say that God is a power of some sort. And you want to have a power because you're trying to explain some phenomenon, or you want God to have power over you, or to be regulating the world, or whatever. So now we then say God is power, setting aside the issue of whether God is infinite power or just very powerful or whatever. So then we say, okay, fine. So I know what power is, but then if we try to say, does this mean God has really big muscles? He's got muscular power, because I know what muscular power means. And the answer is usually no, because we say God is not a physical being. But that's an important move right there, because right then we've stopped trying to say what God is, and we started to say what God is not. He is not a muscularly powerful being. Well, what other kind of power could we be talking about that God has? If it's not muscular power, is it chemical power? Is it water power? And again, we would say, no, he's not a chemical, he's not water. But again, we're saying he's not this, that, and the other thing. And we can't simply go down the road of saying God is not, because then we are defining God into nothingness, and he would become nothing. So we have to at some point be able to say what God is. What is this power that God has? And if we start, and this is where most of the traditional religions go, is to say, well, God's power is beyond human comprehension, or it's a different kind of power that is ineffable. Then I think we are confessing implicitly that we have a meaningless concept, because then what we're saying is we don't really know what this God thing is. And that is a big problem for it. If we want to say, well, let's not try power, let's try God is the creator. So we want not only to have a God who's governing the world and going to punish us if we don't do various things, not so much the power. We're trying to explain why the world is the way it is. God created the world. And we say, okay, well, I know what creation is. Does that mean that God is kind of like an artist? Right? So we think of artists as creative, and that's something that we can give meaning to. Artists take some raw material. I take some clay and I do something to it. Is that what God did? God took some unformed stuff and molded it into the universe. And we usually, the standard answer has been, no, God did not take some pre-existing stuff. And there are various reasons why they don't want to say there's pre-existing stuff, partly because that would limit God's power and it would not make him infinite in various ways. So he didn't make the universe or create the universe the way artists create the universe. Well, we know about sexual procreation. Does that mean that God, there was a female God and the goddess and they got together in some sort of union, and out of that, and we do know that there are some primitive religions, animistic religions, that will go down that road. The mature religions, particularly if you want to be monotheistic, right, can't go down that road for obvious reasons. So then we have to say, no, that is not the right model. But the question always is then, is there some other word of creation that we can say, this is what God did, that we can wrap our minds around, so that when we say God is the creator, we know what we are talking about. And if all we have is, no, he doesn't do creation in any sort of creative underway that we might normally ascribe to human beings, then we are stepping into a kind of agnosticism. Now, many religions will explicitly embrace agnosticism in this sort. They will say God is beyond human comprehension. It is just an act of faith. But then for those of us who are, I think, rational about it, we have to say you don't have a clear concept of God. It's a placeholder for something else. It's an empty placeholder. And then I think the next step in our conversation, though, has to be, well, if it's not really about God and trying to make God intelligible and prove the existence of God, what are these other placeholder things, these other values that religion is supposed to be achieving for people, such that God is brought in to support in some way?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit the key point, is that clearly religion, the world's religions, if you look at them, had and it's ubiquitous because it seemed, especially in early cultures, a way of organizing cultures and trying to define a set of rules that would allow groups of individuals to coexist in a fashion that would at least be controllable. And so religion clearly, all the world's religions, at least the early major ones, provide a set of rules, whether it's the Ten Commandments or something else, that they ascribe to this non-entity, and say can't be questioned, but they define. Well, they can't be questioned. The Jewish religion, you can sort of question them. You can at least have a debate about them. But they define a way for how people should live. So religions, really the central part of religion is not so much necessarily the metaphysical basis of them, as much as a set of prescribed rules, which you can understand as being useful to say how people should live. And that would be great, except it turns out the rules the reason religion is a net negative force for humanity is that those set of rules are obscene, ultimately, when viewed in a rational sense. But I think religion, as you point out, is really, at the heart of it, is you use God as a placeholder to argue for a set of rules by which your group or your tribe should adhere, and as a way of just creating order, and also to some extent creating control, because in many religions there's a priest or a hierarchy that can then control the way people behave. So it starts out as a metaphysical idea, becomes a basis for organization, almost political organization, and then becomes a power structure.